In today's episode, I was in Toronto with a guest who helped Canada's largest grocer think and act like a startup to build this digital ecosystem. When Lauren Steinberg, who today is the CDO of the company, when she joined Loblaws, all transactions were still happening in their brick-and-mortar locations. So they did something bold. They built a separate digital business inside the company, a startup within the enterprise. In this episode, we dive into how that startup mentality helped shape Loblaw's transformation from building e-commerce infrastructure from scratch to navigating shift consumer priorities from quality to speed to value. Lauren and I will be at Groceryshop, our favorite grocery event that will happen from September 28th to October 1st in Vegas. And you can join us too. The link to more details is in the show notes. Here's Paula Macadi, and this is episode 82 of my show. Welcome to OFFBounds. Lauren, welcome to OFFBounds. Thanks for being here with me in Toronto.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
We have an audience from all over the world. Maybe not everybody is familiar with Loblaws. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the company?
Loblaw is Canada's largest retailer. We have over 2,500 locations across the country. We're virtually in every neighborhood, in every city, in every town. We operate across a number of different verticals, largely grocery. Of course, that's kind of what we're known for, but we also operate Shoppers Drug Mart, which is Canada's largest pharmacy goods seller, one of Canada's most beloved brands in apparel, Joe Fresh. So we've got, we do a little bit of everything, but we are kind of the essentials go-to for the vast majority of Canadians. And of course, we, have these ancillary accelerators like our loyalty program, which virtually every Canadian adult is a member of, PC Optimum. Yeah, we've just got this great portfolio of products that serve, everyday basic fundamental needs for
And how many stores are we talking about?
2,500 stores. So, we like to say we're kind of the heart of so many of the towns and cities and neighborhoods across the country. We're about 10 minutes from 90% of Canadians, one of our stores. So we've got, in Canada, I don't know if you're familiar with kind of the
Not so
topography,
much, unfortunately.
but 90% of our population lives actually in the very bottom. But we've got this like really vast echelon of the country. And so to kind of be all over and be able to, impact communities and be there for them when they need us, but of course, everyday basis.
So you have these stores in
We
the
do,
north,
yeah. We're everywhere. I've gone far and wide, learned about really, honestly, most of my knowledge of Canadian geography comes from my time at Loblaw and just exploring the country and getting to know operators across the country.
And you are the chief digital officer.
That's correct. Yeah.
So even though you have 2,500 stores, you take care of the digital part of it.
Yeah, my stores are everywhere. Technically, we're accessible to the entire country. We've operate a number of different e-commerce businesses, grocery, pharmacy, beauty, apparel, digital prescription. So we are serving, the immediate needs of Canadians and making sure that we can get right to their doorstep when needed.
But it wasn't always like that, right? So you've been in the company for 13 years, that's
something like
correct?
that,
Yeah. So you've seen the journey, the digital journey. How did it start?
Yeah, it's how we started is such a fundamental part of how we operate today and who we are, kind of the DNA of our digital and our personality. If I go back to then, we had an SVP of strategy who was sitting inside of our core business, inside Loblaw. And he was kind of the leader to develop the e-commerce strategy for Loblaw. And like most, strategy people, they sign you up for these like big ambitious goals and then they leave, consultancies come in, they say it could be this big. And then they build a plan and they leave and they don't have
Classic.
Exactly. They don't have any accountability. But, in this case, they actually offered him the job to run it after he had completed that kind of exercise of, size of the prize. And he accepted that, but he did so under kind of, two pretenses. The first was that we would have, our office be outside of the core kind of mothership, the core HQ, be downtown Toronto, whereas our kind of head office is closer to the airport, kind of, about an hour outside of the city of Toronto. And that was very intentional to make sure that we could, secure the best talent, young talent, folks, who are the best engineers in the city, compete with the likes of, other Canadian tech companies that were in Toronto.
Startup?
Yeah,
business?
They wanted to kind of, make it feel like that. I think people think Loblaw at that time, they think traditional retail. They didn't think breaking the barriers or kind of, doing something new, like we had intended to do. And then the second was really P&L ownership. And that's really been the most fundamental difference, I think. When you own the P&L top to bottom, you make more informed decisions. You're not frivolous with, the investment that you get. You're very particular about your pursuits. You just make smarter choices. A lot of the times companies like Loblaw would build their e-commerce business within the IT organization or the marketing organization, and then you become a cost center. Those are cost centers. I think we always wanted to be a top line generator, not a bottom line.
You want to
be
the stars.
You want to be the growth lever, right? You want to be the growth engine. And so that allowed us, like every time that we built something, we first built and then we asked for more based on the performance of what we had built. And that created this level of accountability and ownership that I think otherwise, wouldn't have shown up. And that kind of is the red thread of who we've become over the years.
But were you looking specifically on the profit of each action, or you're trying to get market share first?
We were thinking about we always think about how could we grow responsibly.
Okay.
Because that's just an important aspect. We don't necessarily have to be profitable today, but we have to make decisions that we think will deliver profitability over, a longer term horizon. But ultimately, like our strategy was first to market, first mover advantage. If you looked at the UK, where e-commerce for grocery at the time was far more mature, it was very underdeveloped, if not developed, not developed at all in Canada. And so we felt, let's move fast. Let's not be perfect, but let's learn. Let's be iterative. Let's not make some massive, fulfillment center investment, or let's not make some massive technology purchase. Let's build iteratively. That really is that startup culture, right? And so we made these very thoughtful decisions of what paths we would pursue. Even our first venture into online grocery, which was a click and collect model, I remember launching store 1. We probably ran that for a couple months. We launched store 2, store 3. Someone sent me a text the other day.
So it wasn't like, well, let's do 500 to begin with.
It was like, let's just start and let's learn. Like our first click and collect department that we opened up at one of our stores, I think it cost us over $1 million. By the time we were done opening up, we're at about 850 now. It cost us like $50,000. Like just the amount that you learn through that process. Imagine going from, what does $1 million setup look like to be able to do it for 50,000, or during COVID to be able to spin up hundreds of these very quickly based on the demand. I mean, that comes from iterative and experimentative approaches. Right?
And I think you have to experiment with your customer base too, because they are not used to, if there wasn't online grocery before, they had to adapt to it, right?
For sure.
To learn from.
For sure. And the benefit of first mover advantage is you get to create the market demand. Like Canada for at least the last 7-8 years was largely a pickup business. Like that was actually the dominating format for online grocery. Now it's shifted over the last 5 years since COVID, it's shifted. Now it's moving more towards delivery. But being the first mover, we were able to kind of create the market versus have to adapt to it. And then we were able to transform it. And I do think that we've been instrumental in that in this country for sure.
And how was to set everything? Fine, you have the P&L, but you had to have the systems in place, the right technology.
We had none of that.
Exactly. I think that's, how was building it?
I think, the last 4 years have been a journey of undoing a lot of the decisions that we made early on. Like, for example, our first pursuit around building the technology infrastructure was a monolith approach, because they're historically very they lack complexity, they're easy to spin up, but the more you customize, the more you adapt, the more you respond to customer needs, and the more options you build into your service, and the more customization is required, the more rigid that becomes. And so we built multiple e-commerce businesses, so we built multiple monoliths, and over the last 4 or 5 years, we've been undoing all of that to build more composable architecture, and thankfully so. We had the foresight to do that, in 2021.
Yeah,
and that's allowed us.
It's not something you can do in a month.
God, no, absolutely not. And it's allowed us now to be very responsive with new form factors of commerce, whether that be LLMs or social media commerce. We're able very easily to plug in and plug out of that. We're able to turn on a retail media network fairly quickly because we own that. My boss's boss, I guess, always says, own your platform and really control your destiny. And I think that's what we've been able to do. And I think just not making these massive investments, but again, just going step by step, being very methodical, has allowed us to kind of pivot when needed.
And how was the evolution? Because customers back then were different than customers today. So what they're looking for, agility, speed, I don't know, like what was the evolution of the first years of Loblaw Digital and now?
That's the thing with Canada and being Loblaw. It's like you kind of serve everybody. And so there is no how are customers then versus now. It's such a mosaic, So like if you look at our business, even our grocery business, our online grocery business today is 50-50 pickup delivery. It's 50-50 pass, not pass. It's every, it's like,
And I guess like a few regions is different than the
totally
other one,
out west versus the Atlantic and the way customers shop, like in, northern provinces and territories and versus large cities. So it is
but I guess
nuanced.
like there are some moments like after the pandemic that we all had the inflation, like there's so much going on that was a commonplace for everybody in the world.
Sure. Yeah. I think the biggest trends right now, other than like the technology trends, are just people are seeking value. Like they just want to know they're getting the best value for their money. It's, in inflationary times, that's obviously the case. In some cases do that heavy lifting for them. And so we're introducing, great value add programs in our stores and particularly through our loyalty program that we bring online. And most of that stuff is a reflection of what we do in our stores. Still like 90% of our transactions happen in our stores. But customers will choose to shop both if they feel like it's an equitable, offering. And we are very true to that. Like I think we want to make sure that customers don't miss out when they shop online. And in fact, they get even perhaps more, right? Because we do some of the heavy lifting through the means of technology like personalization, for example. And what we're seeing now in a lot of our personalization pursuits is, historically, I remember going into like store 1, store 2, store 3 when we launched and saying like, hey, have you tried online grocery? And everyone was like, there was 2 excuses that we got. One was, no, like this is like my special time. Like this is where I get my steps. This is where I get away from my family. This is where I
like this 30 minutes being
exactly.
silent.
This is like my time. The second one was really like, I feel like I'm going to miss out. Like I discover products when I walk the aisles, right? You walk the aisles, you see everything. Going to grab one item and you see this alternative that you had never seen before.
Fair enough, yeah.
People had missed out on that with online because most people were shopping either things they bought before or they're searching for the things that they bought before. And more recently, we've kind of found ways to expose customers to products that are largely relevant for them based on historical behaviors, but also based on predictive models through the use of AI. And now about 44% of customers, like items customers are adding to their basket that are exposed to personalized experiences like the ones we're creating, they've never bought before. So that's telling us that they're seeing things that, or they're discovering. Like they're finally, like that's been such a hurdle.
What is relevant to them.
Totally. That's been a hurdle of e-commerce. It's hard to discover. Even though you think, well, we have all these tools at our disposal, with grocery shopping, it's historically been very different. People do build baskets based on search. You go and you type in your list and you don't really get to discover that way when it's so curated in that form. And so for us, that's been probably the biggest change, is like exposing people to new products. It's not about getting them to buy more. It's about getting them to feel like we know what they might otherwise be looking for that maybe they don't.
Not every time I know what I'm looking for. Sometimes I'm just hungry.
Totally. How many times too do you walk through a grocery store and you're like, look at this pretty looking brand or this like interesting thing that I've never seen before. Like that's such a fun part of shopping for groceries, and we want to be the best at it, certainly when it comes to online. And I think we're doing a really, really exciting
So the
job.
online experience is through your app? Is that how it works?
Yeah. So we have the PC Express app. We've got we have 16 grocery banners across the country, different brands and banners that resonate with different markets. In Toronto, you'd largely be familiar with No Frills and Loblaws and Zehrs and Fortinos. And then out west, Superstore is really our, bread and butter, no pun intended. So different banners, resonate with different customers. And we like to think of PC Express, which is our online grocery service, as an extension of those banners, because people really do have a relationship with their grocery store, with the people inside of that grocery store,
you literally
right?
have to deal with them like a few times a week, right?
Totally, for sure. I mean, it is
life, yeah.
Also like, I don't live in a small town. I live in a big city, but I have, seen the impact of a grocery store inside of these small communities. I know that they are really a hub or a place to connect, and they are they're large participants in that community. And so for us to speak through the store, be a service that the store offers amongst many of the other services, I think is important. We're not trying to be this big takeover. It really is something that our stores can offer their customers and build a deeper relationship with them.
So it seems like the grocery part of the business is pretty figured out digitally.
Yes.
Of course, always evolving. But
Yeah.
how is the others? Beauty, pharmacy, how is that going? Is that the same?
I mean, grocery is our biggest.
Yeah.
I think that was where we placed our bets. But the rest of them are very strong. Like I think that, we launched Joe Fresh e-commerce first. That's our apparel brand. That was actually the first business that we built when I came on board to kind of set the foundation to make sure we had the kind of the fundamentals right before we really ventured into grocery and like took on something that, no one had really ever done before, certainly on our team, right? But, apparel it's a hot market. The vast majority of apparel sales in the country are happening online. And so we want a fair share of that because we built our apparel business in our stores. Obviously, it's like you went in, people told us all the time, moms told us all the time, like, I go into the grocery store to do my shop, but I grab a little something extra for me or for, my kids or whatever that might be. And so we wanted to, recreate that moment. And I think whether it be Joe Fresh or it be our beauty business online or even digital pharmacy, which is actually just as big as online grocery for us, whether it's a service or a business, like for us, it's really how do we give everyone equal access. We're uniquely positioned to do that with our reach. We have the largest digital reach in the country. We know that because we've built a media business off of it. And we've got the largest loyalty program in the country. We've got millions upon millions of people opening that app every single week and using it not to shop, but to plan their shop. So forget about the digital commerce. People are using our apps before they go into the store. Virtually everybody. You're not going into the store without either checking your offers or building your list. We have customers who use our PC Express cart as their in-store list, right? They're not writing it on a piece of paper anymore or, using a list feature on their phone. They're using PC Express as their
This
like
is super
go-to list.
interesting because that's a different journey and you have access to the planning of the customers. So it's easier for you to do the retail media part of it too, right? Like,
for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, we've built also some incredible features knowing that, like one of the recent ones, given noise and challenges, Canadians wanting to choose Canadian products and produced or made in. And we built a feature that allowed customers to create their shopping list and then click a button that said swap Canadian. And they would see Canadian alternatives to the products that were in their cart or in their list. Similarly, we did the same concept, but for savings, so swap and save. So you could see alternative, like for like products that were, lower in price. It wasn't choosing our, brands. It was actually whatever brand is a good like for like product, but maybe allowed you to save a little bit at the grocery store that week. Like it's those kinds of things that you build trust.
Yeah, that you show that you care, right? Like it's
Totally.
the relationship that they have with you.
Totally. I think it's great for the customers. And then my team absolutely loves it. Like they want to feel like they're building, products that Canadians really rely on and that make a difference, and
that's a much more powerful loyalty that
That's
you build
loyalty.
than giving
Points.
a discount or whatever.
Totally.
Points, exactly. It's
Absolutely
actually
agree
like,
with
hey,
that.
I'm here with you. I will help you save or I will help you buy a Canadian. Very good.
definitely. Yeah.
And next time we're going to see each other, it's going to be in Vegas. I'm
Yeah.
excited. We are actually here because of Groceryshop.
Yes.
And I'm very excited that you're going to be there sharing this story with everyone. Why do you think it's so important for grocery leaders to attend an event like that?
I mean, there's so many reasons. Like I personally love Groceryshop because it allows me to connect with peers from around the world. I think grocers, we're a pretty special breed. There's like these like coalitions, these like, secret grocery societies. I have so many peers from countries I've never even visited, but who I've connected with because they run businesses. We're all dealing with the same, very consistent challenges and we all have the same opportunities, to pursue. And so I think having all those people in one space and just sharing and learning, like obviously, yes, you sit in on some of these sessions and you're able to walk away with, a couple of different actionable items, or your team is there, of course, with you and they get inspired. Like a lot of that is just really about being inspired and having maybe a different mindset when you get back to your desk at home. But
Yeah,
I
maybe
think for
one
me,
idea that you didn't think
Totally.
about before. Like, oh, this will solve that problem. That we
Totally.
have.
I mean, I think for me, when I speak at these events, I also, I think oftentimes we stay surface level. And I think for me, it's an opportunity as a speaker in particular to kind of go a little bit deeper and give people something they can really grab onto. So I think everyone knows the macro trends. Everyone knows the macro opportunities. I think it's really like, okay, well, how did you solve that within your world? And, we often have people come, other grocery retailers come to us and we sit around with them and vice versa. We go to Australia, we go to, Europe, we were just in Asia. But I think having everyone in one place, I mean, people often don't even know Loblaw when we go to most conferences, but when we go to Groceryshop, they know who we are, which is also a nice change. But yeah, I think it's just helpful to kind of get out of the day-to-day and be exposed to your peers and share. Like I love sharing. I love, consuming, from folks who are navigating the similar challenges.
And there's, I think, like another component that I love. It's like how we learn about new technologies too. There is so much disruption happening by the day, especially I would say AI, but not only AI. Do you see any other disruptions happening in the grocery industry because of technology?
It's everywhere you look. Like, obviously, yes, AI, and we can talk at length about it, I'm sure. Automation, I think, had its moment. I think it kind of, when COVID subsided for the most part, there was a bit of a pullback in investments in automation with shifting volume, shifting demand, just a shifting market. But I actually think that it's at this cusp of like both AI and automation combined make it even more powerful. And so I think we're a little hesitant on automation in the past. I think we're about to see probably a pretty big resurgence, at least from a grocery macro perspective. Again, like supply chain, there's so much happening in that vertical. We have
good or bad?
Both. But I mean, the opportunity is massive, and like I said, like I think from a digital perspective, for me, there's two things that I dream about and I wake up every morning thinking about, and it's search and personalization. I think search from an end-to-end perspective, whether that be how customers are searching before they find you through, Perplexity and ChatGPT and other
this is
LLMs.
new, right?
Like that's a whole different ballgame. That totally transforms SEO and now becomes, GAO. All of a sudden, the expectations on your own on-site search have been elevated. What that means for, sponsored search as a product, if you're running a retail media network. I think the tentacles of search and how people are using it and being able to respond to it and the expectation. I mean, it's just, to me, that is like the most exciting, one of the most exciting, and it's off and it's on site. And so like some you can control, others you can't, and you have to adapt to. And so that to me is like incredibly
there's so
rich.
much to figure it out still.
Totally.
Yeah.
And it's changing so quickly. And so folks who have, built the talent and the technology to adapt will obviously, be really well positioned. And I think that's us. Like I said, personalization. I mean, to me, that is how you build the moat. That is how you, to your point around not points, but true loyalty. That I think is how, when customers feel like you do understand them and you put something in front of them that is rich and relevant, that is like an incredibly powerful thing. That's how, Amazon was able to achieve what they did. That's how Netflix and Spotify, those folks became a winner takes all kind of market leader. And that's, I think for us, it's kind of fundamental to what we do. Like, yes, it's a way to win, you could say, quote unquote, but ultimately it is actually just the future of business, And I think that to us, it's table stakes, but we'll be able to use it to do all sorts of crazy cool things.
Yeah, and there's this like futuristic approach to that. It might be a little bit further than the GEO, but having our own agents shopping for us instead of us looking for the products online. Are you considering these possibilities too?
For sure. I mean, there's that's what we call agentic moments.
Yeah.
Right. When there's, yes, a conversation maybe rooted in it, but there's an immediate action to be taken that either you take or the agent takes, a version of you or an extension of you or some technology in some part of that pipeline that takes. And I think that to us is really exciting too, because we operate in so many verticals, food is very much connected to your health. And so if we can help you as you start taking a new medication because of some ailment, we can assist you with food recommendations. And we can deliver them to your doorstep automatically, whatever that is. Like, I just think there's something really special about connecting the dots for you, helping you navigate things of that nature.
Yeah.
I know our president and our chairman, very passionate about using food to improve the health and the livelihoods of Canadians. And I think that we have the opportunity to do that. I know it sounds kind of, but it is true. And I think that's kind of built into our DNA. And we're trying to think about how does technology allow us to get in front of customers. So many times you're walking through the store, you're having to come to those conclusions and make those decisions. But we're sitting on a lot of helpful information and products and services that can help you too. And I think, intrinsically, that's kind of, something that's very important to us.
Do you think grocery, because we have access to so many technologies nowadays, it's easier or harder than 10 years ago?
I don't think it's either. I don't think it's harder or easier. I think it's just more exciting, I guess. Like my family, actually, I grew up in grocery stores. My family owned a grocery chain.
So you came from the counter. That's the...
Yeah, totally. And I mean, I grew up in grocery stores. My dad was a buyer in that environment. And, my grandmother would take me to the stores. Like I love grocery. I think fundamentally, it is still the same. Fundamentally, you are sourcing healthy, fresh, trending food, whatever that is. You're getting it in front of the customer. Now it's just there's 101 more ways to do it. And you can do it on an individualized basis. The way that you want it, we can do it exactly like that for you. The way that I want it, do it like that for me. And I think that's actually the difference, is it's not a one size fits all anymore. You don't just walk into the grocery store and everyone sees the same thing, right? Even in store, we can do it differently by using the app that, all of our customers are opening in our store, which is the PC
have
Optimum
access
app.
to any product from anywhere nowadays. Like
True. True. But also you trust us to curate. We also have the number one brand, like a food brand, control brand in the country. I think we have 4 of the top 7 in the country, and they're only sold in our stores. You can imagine, how popular those products are. And I think the product development that goes into those physical products, and then the responsibility we feel to make sure that the products we build to bring those to people are just as good, if not better. Like, I think that is, it's not easier, it's not harder. It's just like everything, it just evolves.
Very good. And in this journey, so you started as the digital part of the business. It started as a startup, separate. You had to have the get-going energy that you usually don't have in corporate. After that, I think you're incorporated in the traditional business.
Not really. I mean, the way that I would position it is we were off on an island to start. We felt that was important so that we could move a little faster and not break rules, but maybe not follow existing rules to a T. And I think once COVID hit and we surpassed that $1 billion in e-commerce sales, it was very clear to us that in order to keep going and achieve the momentum that we now have, we needed to start to access the assets that the enterprise had that we had less. And so we really tapped into the value that our marketing organization has and our supply chain organization has and our merchandising team. Like these are experts beyond comprehension. Most of these folks have been with this organization for 40 some odd years, right? And so the wealth of knowledge and the reach that those folks have. And I firmly believe, how I have been successful in my career is building relationships. So as I took over, Loblaw Digital and over time, several other, parts of our business, I felt like building relationships was really going to be the difference maker in getting us to that 3 billion, 4 billion, 5 billion mark. And it's proven to be the case. And I honestly think like my team, as much as they loved kind of acting like a startup and being on their own, we still have a lot of that, but yet we get to interact with folks who have a $60 billion business, folks who have built, things that we are looking to build ourselves and that we can kind of, learn from and teach, and I think there's so much richness in that. So while we haven't been absorbed into we never were fully our own company. We pretend like we were, but we never fully were. And now it really is, I kind of articulated as we put up a full brick wall. And over time, myself, my team of leaders, taking those bricks down one by one. And there's certain bricks that should always stay up because it allows you to differentiate yourself. It allows you to operate with a slightly different, mindset. But for the most part, I think there's so much value in teaching and learning across the 401, if you're familiar with Toronto, across the highway. So, yeah.
I'm not familiar with that, but thanks for explaining. And you had many roles in this journey, and now you are the CDO. What do you think were the 3 things that allowed you to be in the position you are today? Yeah,
I mean, first and foremost, it's just great talent within, around me, surrounding me. Whether that be the leaders, that I reported into as I kind of ascended the organization, or the incredible leadership team that I have built. And honestly, the whole team we're just riddled with talent. And I think that's like the most important is like hire people that know so much more than you do, and then just like find ways to make life easier for them, or, remove the glue, as we call it, the things that like slow people down, And so like that to me is probably number one, like in any org, in any company, in any industry, you name it, great, surrounding yourself with great people and great leaders. The second would be like great storytelling. I think when you're building something new inside of an organization, or you're trying to do something different, to be able to frame it in a way that gets people excited, particularly the people who are going to be investing in you and in this, to be able to craft a narrative that is ambitious but also achievable, and told in a way that's like really compelling, and people want to be a part of it.
That's so hard.
It's so hard.
Yeah.
But either you figure out a way to be good at it, or find people who can help you do that, and then teach people how to do that inside of the organization. Show by doing, but also teach them. Like, we actually used to have someone in our organization who would go around and like try to teach people good storytelling and good, I hate to say good decks, but oftentimes it's just a visual, storytelling. So I think that's probably second, having done all the things, or many of the things that I ended up hiring teams to do, allowed me to just, really empathize and
to see how it's done, see what the challenges are.
Totally. And, really get a sense of like what teams need, so that you can truly invest in the areas that need to thrive in order for the whole thing to thrive. That's something that I was lucky to have. I think that also comes when you stay in one place for a longer period of time. I think a lot of people move around and you get growth that way. For me, and my case, and others at certainly at Loblaw Digital, staying allows you to gain so much knowledge, and then to be able to deploy that knowledge to even get farther along. I think that's a really overlooked thing these days. And I think before I got to Loblaw, I jumped around a lot, and so I missed out on that. And so I can see the difference that makes.
To see the whole story.
Yeah. I always used to say to my team, like when we go through like big changes and difficult work, like, replatforming, real change takes time. And if you're lucky, if you stick around, if you're willing to like put in the hard work, then you get, and stick around, you get to benefit. On the other side of that, you're going to benefit from seeing it through. And if you don't want it, like, that's okay too.
Yeah, but how frustrating you'd be to leave before the replatforming is over. Like,
totally.
You went through hell.
Totally. And then you get to benefit from this new, rich, modern, flexible, adaptable technology.
And you look at each other like, oh, remember how we used to do it with the monolith?
And there's also, there's always new problems to overcome, and so I fully recognize that. But that's life in a rapidly changing environment. That's digital, that's technology, that's even grocery.
For somebody that is starting retail leadership, doesn't even have to be grocery, what would be your advice to them?
Try to get involved. The way they framed it was slightly different, but I guess I would say like try to get involved in things outside of your direct purview. I think that is the best way of learning. It's the best way to figure out what you are passionate about too, as you're exposed to other things. Oftentimes we get stuck in our, domain, and we think that's our thing. But that's only our thing because we haven't really seen, what else we might enjoy, or what else the education system, like having to make some decisions so early on and then following that path. But that's a path that you had to make a decision on so early on, and where's the flexibility in that? And so like for me, just raise your hand, get involved, seek opportunity, kind of crawl around, and look for those moments. Because for me, I think of all the times where I did that and then I became the go-to. It's like, well, this thing is not working. Let's see if let's put Lauren on it and she'll figure it out. And you end up being the person oftentimes where things just kind of get done. But that's actually, for me, that was how I learned all these, new things. And
like doing a little bit of the things we're not qualified to do.
Totally. Yeah. Totally. I think I see it all the time. I see people who say, yeah, I'll give it a shot. And that ends up becoming their path, their trajectory.
Do you look at these talents like, I used to be like that? Like this is a good
100%.
quality. Yeah.
100%. That
You're
is,
observing.
sometimes you want to be a specialist and there's certain verticals where you kind of have to be, but for me, knowing a little bit of everything, maybe being, really good at a couple of different things along the way, I think that's really positioned me for the success that I've seen, and not sticking to one thing, but trying new things.
Awesome. Lauren, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts here.
Yeah.
I see you in Vegas.
See you in Vegas.
Yeah. Well, we can tell the things that are going to happen in Vegas. It's not
Yeah.
not that type of Vegas.
Fair enough.
See you soon.
Thank you.